This episode is one of the better ones in Dr. House. Let's have a look. Guys, the police have been investigating House illegally held Curtin. He had to hide in the ICU to avoid the limelight. Wilson scolded him for impersonating his signature, illegal prescribing. So he had to lie to the police. Lying next to is a vegetative father who has been sleeping for 10 years. It just so happened that his son came to visit. House saw him for the first time. I started turning the lights on and off, then throw the potato chips in his face, and then House does eyebrows. A teleportation flashed by House young show. House says, I have seen my son almost trip when he went out, but you can't see the door, so he got motor blindness. You can see anything moving when you're sick. House deliberately flashes lights, trigger his seizure, to treat him, saying that the son lay down on the ground, start twitching. Wilson's head is getting bigger again. I know he is sick. Why torture people?
Spam.
Son told Cameron, I'm just intermittent. Occasionally you can see moving objects. He had had a few seizures in the past, not serious. Many doctors have examined him, but nothing was found. His mother died 10 years ago. Father was in a coma for 10 years. He didn't know if he had any genetic history. All his relatives have passed away. The more vicious son is a big alcoholic. The carry-on bag is full of wine. Just take bites. Motor blind compartment syndrome is not uncommon. 80% of people have inherited recessive epilepsy as a complication. 20% of people is caused by brain injuries and mental illness. You only see the static ones when you're sick. You can see anything moving. There are many fans and friends who are studying medicine. Should be able to remember. This is the content of the most basic pathology in the sophomore year. House looks at the egg, found father and son. Cortical waveforms are similar. I think it's hereditary. But the son asks 3 questions without knowing. Father is in a vegetative state. How to understand medical history. His house caught fire 10 years ago. The father wanted to rush in to save his wife. Can be smoked down by thick smoke because the brain lacks oxygen, become a vegetable. So House led the 3 little ones, testing my son for adrenomedullary neuropathy, and check his home. Nothing unusual was found at the son's house. Adrenomedullary neuropathy was negative. House has to ask them to take another DNA test. Let's see if the Botic is cured or FORSH. Secondly, I'm in a hurry. There are over 3,000 genetic diseases. Do you want to check it all? House said yes. Of course, I don't know how many kinds I checked. Anyway, they're at a loss now. Just then, the son developed new symptoms. He felt nauseous and nauseous. Cameron takes a load. There is already internal bleeding in his liver. Then the son started coughing and vomiting blood. Son lost consciousness, fell into a coma. Has met the criteria for a level 4 coma. Most likely a side effect of drugs that suppress epilepsy. Of course, he could also be an alcoholic. Liver coma caused by drying the liver. 4 men came to report his son's liver and kidney failure. Already on the dialyzer. As the saying goes, illness comes like a mountain. The son is about to be taken away by the dog in an instant. Did he have an infection? It's neurological or genetic disease. House decided to question his father. Get a detailed medical history. But my father has been lying in a vegetative state for 10 years. Hey, can House be stumped about being in a vegetative state? House got levodopa at the pharmacy. This is for Parkinson's and hepatic coma. This was followed by large doses of amphetamines. It's a drug, can get people excited. House used these. His father became a super addict in seconds. House told the 3 little ones. It's been reported from South Africa. A drug can briefly revive vegetative people. Although he doesn't know the recipe. Dare to try. Lisa heard. Run quickly. He is not allowed to do human experiments with vegetative people. It's not legal. Even the hospital can't be held responsible for something wrong. House doesn't care. I brushed it and pressed the needle in. I almost had a heart attack. Here are the moments to witness the miracle. After 17 seconds, the old father woke up. Gollum got up and then he said very clearly that he was hungry. I want steak. It's a medical miracle. This is a great moment in human history. This is a miracle that hasn't happened in 5,000 years, and that's what makes the Ultraman light of M87 shine. For a while, gongs and drums, drum music, bunting flag fluttering. Nobel Prize in Medicine, Lasker Prize in Clinical Medicine, Gardner International Medical Award, Patient Best Collaboration Award, all belong to House. That's a debate. How outrageous is it? Let's talk about it at the end of the video. Anyway, House's divine medical skills are once again reflected. Old father is quick-witted, articulate, move freely. I'm just about to chop the tiles in the house. But his memory only lingers on the moment before the fire and coma. He said he did not have epilepsy, no liver disease. The wife's family has no history of epilepsy. He learned that his son was dying. Don't care at all. Just thinking about my steak. Wilson finds it strange that fathers don't care about their sons. House thinks it's normal because he and his father are like enemies. No family. And white hair also got an investigation order. Investigate in the hospital. Cameron likes House. Nature conceals the amount of medication he takes per day. But white hair is not easy to deceive. Straight to
Can I ask what Dr. House has done to deserve your loyalty? He's not known as a great boss. He's not even much of a friend. And look how he left Dr. Wilson holding the bag. It's odd. You don't know about that. You defend him, and he won't even tell you what's happening in his life.
Cameron's heart. Cameron tried to hide it for House. Let Z's foreman help with the same caliber. House only takes 6 Vicodin pills a day. Never tell the truth, and the father doesn't care at all. My son is about to leave the hospital. Lisa told him he could only be awake for 48 hours at most. Also in a coma, he must not waste every second. Take advantage of this time to spend hairpins outside. Watch high. But his company house and wife are all burned down. Lie down for 10 years. Where is the money? Where is the car? House had an idea. I want to know his family medical history. Just go to the flower shop with him. And they made these conditions. Answer the questions well and cover all his expenses. But the key question, House is not your average stingy. How could he bear to pay? So the bully Wilson is back online. He asked Wilson for money to borrow a car and let my father drive without a license. Wilson saw that his car was about to finish, scared to get in the car and stop. You can get off as soon as you get on the bus. It's a mobile wallet. Father is also a werewolf, a little more than ruthless. Drive directly out of town to eat sandwiches. Prepare for a two-day tour of the country. House made a pact with his father. Father answers a question. House also has to answer a question. During a long self-driving trip, House learns that his father originally produced yachts. The deck is painted with an anti-mold paint. My son used to go to the factory with him when he was young. Must have been stained by paint. The American people go up and down without wearing masks. Children can't even wear them. So House concluded that his son was the paint. Mercury poisoning. Normal people are fine. But my son is an alcoholic. Damaged the liver. Liver is over. Kidneys also died. Become the current state. House immediately called back to the hospital. Have them test for mercury poisoning. By the way, with heavy metal chelating agent therapy. In the hospital, the investigation is ongoing. Chase said he wrote House a prescription. But White here could tell directly that he was lying. He investigated. House is a man who only takes. There was no room for patient or colleague opposition. So I wouldn't even ask Chase for a prescription. Keith was speechless. This side, the three people on the self-driving tour have already arrived in another city. Wilson asked his father strangely, why didn't you see your son after waking up? Dad said his mother's family was full of alcoholics. I didn't expect my son to do the same. Make him angry. But before he left the hospital, I didn't know my son was an alcoholic. Did the son inherit the history of epilepsy on his side? But the father refused to say. Also asked to find a hotel with a casino. So chic. But my son is dying here. His blood pressure dropped rapidly. It's not the liver at all. The real problem was his heart. Wilson is bleeding profusely. Moved into a luxury hotel. He also joined the quiz game. But he asked House, why are you only stealing my prescriptions? Counterfeit signature. But don't steal from others. He didn't wait for House to answer. Gave the answer. House only knows to take, and the mentality is not right. He borrow his money again and again without paying it back. Steal his prescription. Get yourself into trouble. House just wants to see if others would tolerate him. Or testing friendships is conditional. Sooner or later, the friendship between the two will break down. House doesn't need friendship. It's getting the upper hand and getting along. Just when House was speechless to refute, Furman called. Save the field test results. Son is not mercury poisoning at all. It's the heart. His time is running out. House hung up the phone. Asked her father to share his family medical history. The father said that the mother-in-law was killed by a car while walking the dog. His sister-in-law also died in a car accident. It's normal for other relatives to die. The father also asked House a question. People who hate others as much as you do, why become a doctor? House said he lived in Japan when he was 14. A friend was injured, but due to infection, doctors can't help it. The doctor invited a man dressed as a cleaner to see the doctor. This cleaner used to be a doctor. He is also a pariah in Japan. Bulaku, descendants of prisoners of war and prostitutes after the Meiji Restoration. Aino, although he is very good at medicine, but because they are untouchables, so it's not popular in hospitals, he gave up on himself. Raunchy, but if there is a problem, the hospital still needs to find him. So House was affected by, as long as you have real ability, no matter what others think of you. The father also recalled Nake's fire 10 years ago. The wife took sleeping pills and went to bed. He and his son were making popcorn by the fireplace. As a result, the son did not hold the tray, set the popcorn paper on fire, burned down the house. The father only had time to rescue his son, but the wife burned to death. The father doesn't blame the son. I just blame myself for not saving my wife back then. Now my son is dying. He's still powerless. He's out for 2 days. Just run away. House's focus has always been different from others. His family was hit by a car and couldn't hold the tray. It means they all have a genetic disease, myelofibrodopsis, muscle weakness, poor night vision, incongruous movement leads to frequent accidents. The disease can only be inherited from maternal families, but it doesn't affect the liver. Son's liver problems are purely caused by alcoholism. House called Foreman immediately. Let him check his muscles. Fibrillary Kofferman told him, my son has severe cardiomyopathy, almost dead, and alcoholics can't get a heart transplant. Father heard, I want to transplant my heart to my son. House agrees. You're going to be in a vegetative state anyway. It's no use asking for a heart. Wilson is firmly opposed. Rough red muscle fibers cannot be cured. Even if my son gets a heart, he won't live long. But vegetative people have hope of waking up, and the father has no other diseases, can live a long time. But my father only said lightly that he is mine. Son Lisa disagrees when she receives a call. It's like killing me. Take my heart out. The father is not dying. The transplant board will never accept live transplants. At a time like this, as a doctor, how should I choose, big or small? Kill someone to save someone? House certainly has his own way. He spent Wilson to open the market, introduce various methods of suicide to my father. Which one is less harmful to the heart? For example, hanging yourself is kinder to the heart than twisting your neck. Wilson certainly knew what House was up to. He stole House's cane, hired someone to pose as House at a casino, then deliberately strike up a conversation with someone, bring attention to the fake House. He's faking an alibi for abetting suicide. House stood outside the room waiting for his father to commit suicide. With a muffled sound, the father took his own life. Father is great and selfless. Even if my son lives one more day, will make this choice without hesitation. Wilson is driving fast. The father's body was returned to the hospital. Heart transplant, but it destroyed the suicide scene. How to issue this death certificate? To save my son. Looks like it's going to be fate. The son received a heart transplant. Wake up. He asked his father if he had anything before he died. What do you want to tell him? Father said nothing before he died. Just because there are too many things to say. I don't know what to say. House only lied to him.
What does that mean? He said you were right. You did the right thing.
Actually, that's what House always wanted to hear from his father. I also want to hear what others have to say to him. House's obsession in life, I just want the approval of others. Wilson told House, this case proves that there can be unconditional love between people. Although House doesn't believe it, but the father's behavior proved that. Wilson's friendship with House was pure, but it was taken advantage of. His account was frowned by the police until the truth is told against House. He kept giving for House, but what did House do? In House's heart, Wilson was a friend, so take it for granted that no matter what you do, the other party should stand on this side unconditionally. House doesn't understand what true friendship is. He demands the sincerity of the other party. I keep challenging the bottom line. Don't give anything. Friendship is based on mutual trust, on the basis of mutual loyalty, rather than based on selfishness and unilateral sacrifice. The most interesting thing about this episode is that a vegetative person gets a shot. It was alive and kicking. This is an exaggerated plot. Don't take the fire seriously. One of the world's medical challenges, how to get a vegetable to recover, mood therapy, electrical stimulation therapy, stem cell therapy, and so forth can help, but not ideal. There are also many reported cases of vegetative awakening, but it's not like in the play that Gollum turns over and gets up. It goes from the brain to the limbs. At least a few weeks. Is the car king Schumacher rich? He was treated with a stem cell transplant. It took 10 years of stem cell therapy to slowly regain some consciousness. It took another half a year to express emotions. Some cases of vegetative awakening in China. It also takes a while to restore physical function. House was talking about the South African truck in 2006, a car accident in a hospital in South Africa. The vegetative person has been lying down for 5 years because of muscle cramps, so the doctor prescribed him a sleeping pill like a nose blanket. It turns out that, after a period of time, the patient actually has a little consciousness, but after 2 hours of waking up, the patient is back in a coma. So it's been reported that sleeping pills can't treat vegetative people. It caused quite a stir. Use this method. There are also 2 cases in the UK. The vegetative person was awakened after taking the medicine for 4 weeks. After a few more weeks of treatment, can't speak complete sentences. Now, a sleeping pill called Snooze. Clinical trials in vegetative states are underway. Houses levodopa for patients can treat coma caused by hepatic encephalopathy. It produces dopamine, squeeze out toxic substances produced by the liver. Wake up, but after a while you will still be in a coma. You need another shot. If House's own medicine has the final effect, that would really take all the medical awards out there.